Hi, everybody. Did you guys enjoy the episode? I would say let's watch more, but I think you're going to really enjoy what I have in store for you here next instead. I'm Jim Halterman. I'm the West Coast editor of TVFanatic.com, and I'm the editor of the Xfinity TV LGBT page, and I also write for thebacklot.com. So I'm going to give you some names here. Karen Wollick, Jeannie White, Angela Bauer, Claire Mead, Judith Ryland, Shelly Pfefferman. These are all characters played by Judith Light, if you know her career. She's won two daytime Emmys for One Life to Live, 2 Tony Awards, an Emmy nomination for Ugly Betty, and of course now she's wowing us in Transparent. So let's talk to Judith Light.
You all came out in the rain. My God, I said to my manager, there'll be, a couple of people there. It's raining and everything. And here you all are. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, and thank you for coming and talking to us about this fabulous show and your career and acting, all these great things. Obvious first question is, how did this show and this role come into your life?
I was in New York, and I've been doing a lot of Broadway theater, and I got a call from my agent that said, Jill Soloway would like to talk to you, and we're going to have you do a Skype call. So 45 minutes later, and mind you, I had been away from television for a really long time, and I was really happy living in New York again, and I said, yes, there are a few of you out there. Yes, thank you very much. Thank y'all. And I said, I called my manager, Herb Hampshire, and I said, Herb, I think this could bring me back to LA. And I just really wanted her to want me to do this because I knew what this was going to be. And we didn't talk about, what I'd done or what she'd seen me do or any of that stuff. What we talked about was the life stuff. And we talked about, I don't know how many of you know, but I've been an LGBTQ activist for a long time. And thank you. And so that was what was really important to me, and that was what was really important to her, and that was what we were talking about. And so we really just talked to each other for 45 minutes, and we got to know each other as people. And Jill is the type of person that hires not on the necessarily what you've done, although that's important to her, but she hires and wants to form a company of people so that you actually have a kind of energy among you that makes for a product like what I think you just saw. And it's a very different way of working, a different way of operating, and that's how it came about.
Okay. You were telling me a little bit backstage about just how Jill got the show off the ground. Do you want to share some of that?
Well, what's interesting about that is that 3 years ago, and I think most everybody knows this by now, was in the New York Times, and her parent, let me use the right terminology, her parent came out to them and said, actually, I am a woman. And Jill really went through a process. She and her sister and her mother all went through a process around all of that. And I think she knew at some point in time that she wanted to write about it. And she had been writing for 6 Feet Under, and she had been doing a lot of other stuff, the United States of Terror. And what ended up happening was that she wrote a movie called Afternoon Delight, and she directed it, and she won Best Director at Sundance for that project. And it's a really beautiful movie. And so Joe Lewis, I mean, if you guys ever want to work for a place that's phenomenal, it's Amazon Prime. They are unbelievable. I mean, I'll tell you a story later about them. But Joe Lewis saw Afternoon Delight after she won Best Director at Sundance, and he called the agent and he said, I want to know what she's doing. And he said, I want to see more. And the agent said, well, it's a good thing you called because we have the script and it's about to go out to everybody. He said, I want to see it first. He read it. He said, I'll take it. And that's how Amazon works. they're so smart and they're so young. I mean, they're all 12 over there. I swear to God. I mean, it's like, hello, Miss Light. And I said, no, you're making me feel really old now. But they're fantastic. I mean, they came to the set one day. I'll tell you the story. Came to the set one day. We're shooting this big, important scene, big, all this stuff. And like this slew of them from Amazon Prime come over there and we go, why are you all here? For those of us who grew up in network television, we were a little nervous. And we said, do you have something to say? What? And they said, we just came over to hang out with you guys because we think this is so great and we're so excited. And that is the nature and the dynamic of working for that company. And Jill is like that too. I mean, everybody in the whole production. I mean, that's what the feeling is, and that's what I was saying. That's what she casts from. Those are the folks. That's the energy. It's fantastic.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. I figured it got passed by everybody because of the subject matter, but Amazon got it first.
No, they want to do cutting edge programming. They want to do stuff that people haven't seen before. They want to do stuff that's out of the box, that's a new paradigm, and that's what they're committed to. And whatever those stories are and however they're being told, and they hire those people and they say, you know what, we trust you. So go make, go do. And that's how it works.
That's great. And what I love about the show, it is groundbreaking. It's edgy, but yet it's so relatable. I think because we were talking about this again in the back. It's a family dramedy. Mm-hmm. It's really about family. I mean, the transgender story is kind of the thrust in, but then so many great stories, including Shelly's.
Right. But you know what's interesting about that? A lot of people say that too. They say, oh, it's a story about a transgender person. That's the content of this. What this show is actually about is the human dynamic. What does it mean when someone chooses to be their whole authentic self? And what does that do in relation to everybody else around them who's not living that way, who's not doing that? And how do you confront those issues and how do you deal with them? Because we all have the ability to do that, but how many of us live a conscious, truthful, authentic life? And I think that's the universal call from this piece that makes it so different. The content is the transgender and the family, but there's a much larger issue going on. And that's the place that Jill operates from. And before every table read we have, she said, I want to take a moment for all of us to stop and be in gratitude. And that's where we will come from when we make this project, every single time. So we stop and everybody just says how grateful we are to be able to make this.
I'm the G in the LGBT community, LGBTQ.
Hello.
Hi. My name is Jim. I almost embarrassed a couple years ago. I think I talked to Chaz Bono, and I realized I had so much I needed to learn about the trans community that I didn't know, things I assumed, and the show does a great job of putting those things out there in every episode. What have you learned just in the course of the show? I mean, you've been an activist all these years, but did you also learn things, or?
I learned a lot of things. It's like you saw me stop myself before about the language. And I've been on the board of an organization called Point Foundation, and we give scholarships to LGBTQ youth who are marginalized because of their sexuality or their gender presentation. And the trans community within the Point Foundation has taught us a lot about the language. It's like you don't call Jill's father her dad, you call her her parent. And her name is Carrie, and you call her Carrie. And it's the process of learning that language so that you are appropriate to the person that you are speaking to. And that's something that I really had to really spend time learning. And whenever somebody would stop me, a trans person, because we have a lot of trans on the set within the writing staff and on the crew and as well as in the show. And I was doing an interview and one of them stopped me, one of our associate producers stopped me and said, oh, you used the incorrect pronoun. He said, would you go back and would you correct that for the record? And so that's really a lot of it. But the other thing about it is that, you know, we were talking before about the gay community has really taught the world about sexuality. And the trans community is teaching the world about gender fluidity. That who we are as beings has a fluid quality to it. It's not locked in place. And so I think that's one of the things, and people are fearful of that, and they don't understand that. So it keeps people locked up. But I think with this, we're educating people without being didactic, and we're giving them a sense of understanding in a way that they might not have understood before, so that we reduce the bigotry and the divisiveness and the hatefulness toward any community.
Well, let's talk about Shelly a little bit. Let's talk about Shelly a little bit. I know I've talked to you before about past roles you've done on stage when we've done interviews, but you know, what do you connect with Shelly, or is it not something you need to connect with? But how do you approach playing that character? Because she's very different than you.
I love her. I love her. I get to do all those things that I don't get to do in life or say in life. You know, there's that kind of abrasive, tight, funny, not understanding that what you're putting out there in the world is banging up against everybody else. And what's so interesting to me about her is that she is a person who has great longing. She wants so badly to be connected, and she has absolutely no idea how to do it. So she pushes everybody away. And I find that dynamic fascinating, because, you know, we all say in life, oh, no, I want that. That's what I want. And it's like, we never get it. And so often, it's like I find in myself, the investigation of why I didn't get it actually comes somewhere from my unconscious or my subconscious, and I'm not facing that. And I think that's the kind of person that Shelly represents, not in a bad way, but she's so incredibly unconscious. And she's so incredibly, she wants so much and has no idea how to get it. And I find that fascinating. I'll tell you how we worked on that. And we worked on it as a team. Another fascinating thing about this show. Jill worked with a woman named Joan Shekel. And some of you may know her. She has a film lab here. And if you don't know her, you just Google her, because she's extraordinary. And she found her and started working with her on the script that she was doing for Afternoon Delight. And Joan pulls everything apart and looks at everything through an emotional filter, but not where you say, you know, I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about when I say, you know, what's my action in the scene? What do I want? You know, all of that sort of standard stuff. What she talks about is that if you're connecting with someone, that will all take care of itself. If you live in the moment and let the emotion ride on the cells and the blood and the water of the body, by these exercises she has you do, all of a sudden you get a family that is connected in a way that could never, or would take longer to get to if you were doing it from your head. So, and I know you guys know what I mean when I talk about that. It's like if you're thinking about it, you're not in this experience. You're not in this and this. You've got to use the mind and the intelligence to get somewhere, but that has to be put to the side, and that's the way Joan works. And so she would do these exercises with us. I wish I had my camera. I wish I could put some of these pictures up. They're incredible because we never rehearsed a scene. The only thing she had us do was physical exercises, and then she would say things to us as to how she wanted us to connect with each other. And that's what we would do. And everybody threw themselves into it full force. But not only was it the actors, it was Jill who was a part of it, the cinematographer, Jimmy Frona, who was a part of it, our first AD, our second AD. So everybody had to do the emotional work so that we were in the middle of doing a scene. Is this the one with the chicken where I'm screaming at him? He's the only one who came to see me. Is that the one that you saw? No, you didn't see this one. Ed disappears. Ed disappears. But it's Jeffrey's character, Maura, who comes to see me. Is that the anyway, doesn't matter. But when we were in the middle of doing a bunch of these different scenes, what would happen is Jill would call out to Jimmy Frona because she would see something that another actor was doing, and she'd say, get that. So Jimmy would literally be on like bended knees and flipping the camera back and forth. And when he would finish, if it was an emotional scene, he would be sobbing. And the weight of the whole production is carried by everyone in an emotional way. And that's how we worked on it. It's a phenomenal process. Never worked like that before. It's amazing.
Well, because the episode after this, episode 6, The Wilderness, that's where we see a flashback of Mort first telling Shelly about wearing women's underpants. And I want to know how you worked with Jeffrey overall, but that scene in particular, because it's our, as an audience member, like you're kind of hungry to see those flashbacks. So can you talk about that in relation to what you just said?
Jeffrey and I have known each other for a long time. We were in repertory theater in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1971. And we really loved working with each other, and we became friends. And then through the years, we've worked together on and off. And then I did a show that he and John Lithgow were doing together called 20 Good Years. It was on NBC several years ago for about 5 minutes, and I played Jeffrey's girlfriend. So we've been around and we've known each other for a long time. So the looking for the history, we didn't have to do that. And when you do Joan's work, we were more connected. So that's kind of how we were working with each other. But that scene is actually a longer scene. And for those of you who haven't seen the whole 10 episodes, there's a scene where he comes to me and he puts on his outfit. And this is when he is literally in the knowing that he wants to be a woman but can't really say it. So he's in the transvestite phase of his process. And he puts on the dress and the wig, and they had written a longer scene, and they had to cut it. And I know why they cut it, because it may be something that you'll see more of in the second season. But we had a physical fight. I say the line to him. The line is, he says, "It's still me, Shell. It's still me." And I look at him and I say, "I'm done." And after that, I get up and I start to walk out of the room and leave the room, and he starts talking to me, and I wheel on him. And we shot this scene at, I think it was like 12 o'clock at night. And the cameramen were all involved in the scene too, and so I go for the wig and start pulling off the wig, and we have this physical fight, and we fall on the bed, and I'm screaming, and he's just like pinning me down, and that's when I tell him I'm having the affair with Ed. But they had to cut it because they wanted the news of Ed to come out in a different way. But our knowing each other so well and being so close to each other, we had a fight coordinator, of course, but the fact that we knew each other so well, we felt so safe with each other, and that made a huge difference. But there's a shorthand with us. It's like at one point he came in and he said, "Oh, what is it in this scene? What is it? What do we have to find?" And we would just talk about it until we found it, and we knew that the emotional life would be there with us. So that's kind of how we work with each other. It's always a pleasure to work with somebody that you love so much.
Wow. And
I'm so proud of him. His work is so brilliant in this. He's going to win everything. He is. I'm so happy for him.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about the show, because I'm a sucker for a family drama, and this has so much of that in there.
Right.
And also with the Shelly character, the fact that even after divorce, lives are still very intertwined. And even, I don't feel like we get a big window into Shelly and Ed as much, just because of who Ed is at the time.
He can't speak.
Right. So we don't get a ton, but still, it's just, that's what's so real. I keep using that, when I talk to people about the show, I always say real. It feels so real to me, because families are complicated. Is that something I'm guessing you guys all worked on, as portraying a family?
No, again, that was the same thing. It's Joan. It's that work that we did with Joan. That, how you'll see a show like the first episode of something, and you say, "Oh, those people aren't a family yet," and then you like watch the 6th episode, and you say, "Oh, now now they're connected." Whatever. This one happened so quickly because of this work, And what Joan does that's so amazing, first of all, the fact that Jill wanted to do this was incredible. The fact that Amazon was excited about our doing it. And the fact that you can work like this with somebody and know that it's going to take your work up to a whole other level is really extraordinary to have, have that available to you. I mean, we could go back anytime. If anybody here had a script and they wanted to work with Joan, she'll work with you in taking that script apart, making sure that every character is telling the story that needs to be told. That makes it a complete whole in a way that maybe you wouldn't have thought of. Just kind of brilliant, and that's how we did it. That's how it worked.
Do you have a relationship with your wig, with Shelly's wig? I love that wig.
Love Shelly's wig. That wig is like a $5 wig or something. It was just like, and she put it on my head, and I said, there she is, there she is. I'm a big wig prop. I mean, there's things that are tangible that express a character, and Jill wanted that wig too. I mean, she had a lot to say about what that look was going to be. Those glasses are like from Jill. We pick the prop person, like 1,000 pairs of glasses. Like Jill said, that's the one. Those are the ones, and that's how involved she is in character. So yeah, I have a very good relationship with Shelly's wig.
Well, actually, in the flashback, you wear a different wig.
I do.
Because it's 20 years earlier.
That's right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. We have a very good wig person. It's really great. Everybody loved their wigs. I mean, it's not like it's a wig show, please. I mean, transgender people. I mean, it's all wigs and all kinds of great stuff.
I love it. Now,
Yeah.
I don't think you've started filming the second season.
No.
Do you know any tidbit you can say what we're going to see? Is there any of that journey?
I have no idea. This is Jill. She's taking the writers on a sleepaway for 10 days, and they're going to discuss the storylines and the people, and it's going to come out of the family of writers. And also, what's extraordinary about this too is that the way Amazon is doing this, it's like they put on the pilot, we make the pilot, they put on the pilot, they show it, people look at it. You like it? Good. All right, you're the people who want to watch it. Great. We'll pick it up. We'll do 10 episodes. They put it on. You like it? It's like socialist television. It's my favorite thing. It's like, let the people decide what they want to see. I think it's brilliant. And so they're going to come up with stories that people really want to see. And we don't know what those stories are going to be yet. But they are, I mean, if anybody has seen the whole 10 episodes, it's right on the edge. I mean, you think maybe they're not going to go there, and then they do. I mean, I don't know how far along anybody has seen it, but has anybody seen the dildo in the plastic case that they can't get out in the bathroom? I mean, who does that? Oh my God, I have to see it. It's genius. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Wow. You've had so many great roles in your career: television, stage, film, everything. Yeah. I want to know what got you your SAG card. What was that role that got you your card?
Just so embarrassing. I don't remember.
Now, I looked at your IMDb credits, and one of the first credits was Kojak. I don't know if that's
you know
the
what?
one.
Maybe that was it. I got my equity card in before most of you were born. I think maybe Kojak was it. I think so, but I guess we can go back and find out, right?
Should have given you a heads up that I was going to.
Yeah, that was good. No, that's perfectly all right. But it's interesting that I actually don't recall that. Yeah, because I would have had to. But you know what? One Life to Live was actually AFTRA, I think. Would that be right, guys? Would that be right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So I guess it was Kojak because it was film. Yeah. All right. Thanks for asking. It's good for me to know.
I love to ask that question. Is it safe to say you still hear people talk about Karen from One Life to Live even now?
It never has gone away, which completely shocks me and makes me feel very proud because that was not something that I ever wanted to do. I mean, people have heard me talk about this a million times. I never was going to do a soap opera. Not only was I never going to do a soap opera, I was never going to do a sitcom. So I'm a person of my word. I mean, and it all had to do with the fact that I looked down my nose at all of those things. I was very prejudicial about what I was going to do and how I was going to do it and how my career was going to unfold. And one of the things that Herb, Jonathan's partner, always said was the best review that he thought I ever got was in the sitcom when they said, she doesn't look down at her material. And I said, oh my God, I have finally gotten beyond that kind of disrespect for aspects of the business that I thought it had to be a certain way. And if it wasn't that certain way, I wasn't really successful. I didn't really have the career that I wanted. I wasn't being perceived in the way that I thought I should be. And all of that was to my detriment. And I think had I not been in the place where I was so down, really down and out, my unemployment was running out and I was living in New York and I wasn't working and I think there were two aspects of it that were problematic for me. One was that I think I was truly devastated because I wanted it to be something else. But on the other hand, I was throwing a temper tantrum. I wanted it to be the way I wanted it to be, or else it wasn't going to be right. And I said, wait a minute, I think I better get out of the business. I think I better leave. And then this came up, and I got the understudy. I mean, not like the soap opera, was like I got the understudy for one day. And which I would have thought at another time would have been even more demeaning for me. And I said, wait a minute, I think there's a window into something that's going to be valuable for me. And then when I was there for the one day, I ended up not going on. They needed somebody to, this gal kept getting sick and it was problematic and they just needed somebody to stand by for the day. And when I finished, the producer had said to me, if you were playing this role, what would you do? And we talked about it. And then they had me come in and audition for it. And at another time, in another place, I would have said no. And I said, wait a minute, maybe this will give me a window into why I'm actually doing this work. That it's not because of me and what I can get, but for a whole other reason. That's what we were talking about in the green room.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and also you mentioned one of your reps. You've had the same team around you from
35 years. It'll be 35 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that's added to your success?
I don't think there's any question about it. And I also have people around me who will not essentially listen to my crap. They are truthful and authentic with me, and that has made all the difference. Because if somebody is there just to make you feel better or say yes to you because they think that, you know, they need to hold on to a job or whatever it is, it's like the people that I have around me and that are with me today care more about me as a person and who I am being as a human being, not the person who has this career. Because the career is a part of a much larger thing that is way more important, is like, who are you being in life, not what are you doing as an actor. And that, I think, has made all the difference for me. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to have somebody around them for all those years. You know, it isn't like, oh, you're disloyal to somebody if it's not working out or something like that. But for me, it really has made a difference. And being called on my stuff and the way that I operate has also worked to help transform me as a person who's works in the business and is respectful of other people in the business.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a couple of questions from the audience.
Oh, good.
These are kind of the same questions. Mimi and Aaron both want just to know, you've worked in so many different genres, half hour, daytime, hours. You've been on stage, of course, movies. It's Broadway, yeah. Is there a preference? Is there something that just speaks to you a little bit more than the others?
You know, for me, it's all about the character. Who's the character? You know, who is that person, and how is she going to be given to other people? It's the essence of giving a performance. I mean, we were talking about this. It's like, a lot of us get into the business because, of a need for approval or love or narcissism or whatever it is that gets us there. But it isn't what sustains us there. And what sustains us, I think, is the giving of a performance. It's like, I want to give this character to you, or to anyone, and to myself as well, so I begin to understand who that person is and what they are doing in life. So for me, it's the character. And each of those mediums is so different that they all have their pros and cons. A 9-month run is a long time on Broadway. That is a long time. But you've got to find what is exciting about that for every performance. Somebody paid, $300,000 to pay for a Broadway ticket now, to get it, to come to see. It's like, you gotta get it up to give that every single time. And that's a process. And then, shooting a fight scene at 2:00 in the morning is another process. So those are all different, but it's always the character. It's the character that's living in there. That's the illumination for me, so, yeah.
Well, going off on that a little bit, is there a particular character or a type of character you haven't played yet that you're dying to sometime in your life?
No, it's like, and I say that because before all of this, I used to say, I'm doing this. I'm only doing these kinds of characters. This is what I will do, and this is what I will be known for. And I would have blocked out so many things that came to me. I mean, I'm like a control freak. I'm just like, I'm going to have it this way. Well, but what's that line? You want to tell, want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And isn't that John Lennon or something? Somebody, and it doesn't happen like that. It doesn't. That's not realistic. It's like you've got to match your vision to reality. And what's the reality? And then there's an excitement about the work. So to say to you, yeah, there are lots of things that I would think that I would like to do, but it has to be that there's a listening to the universe. And I don't mean that in some new age sort of airy-fairy way. I mean there's a listening that takes place for me when something comes to me. And if I'm so busy, thinking I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, all of a sudden I've blocked out all these things that I've gotten to do that would never have come to me, and nor would I have taken the opportunity to do them in any way at all. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming and sharing all this with us. It's really wonderful. Thank everybody here for coming.
Thanks.